Okay. Now, for those of you who can see me, I am switching over to my phone. So we're going to get this done. I'm not going to let the devil defeat me. I'm going to close out the one on my tablet. And if you will join me on the one on my phone, I just started a new one. I'm going to close out this one. And join me over here on my phone. And we're going to make this happen tonight. Okay. Now, let me see. All right, my friends. I tell you, every time we try to do something, the devil is busy, but I'm not going to let him win. And thank you. Let's see. It says it's adding Alene.
Hi.
Praise the Lord.
C'est bien.
Lord. You talk about faith. I was praying. Okay. I tested this 3 times. Why aren't you working?
Oh, don't worry about it. I do the biggest screw ups when it comes to Facebook. I'm good at that.
Like, seriously? So I don't know. It's just it's aggravating when you're trying to do something and you know you're trying to do something
Yes.
to help people, and it's like, no. So how are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I see we have some awesome sisters, that have logged on. I want to say a special shout out to my beautiful sisters.
Yay.
And thank you so much for having me, Angela. I'm very, very grateful for that.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna shift everything because I have it set up now. Okay, now I'm in front of the camera. All right, because I feel like I'm turned sideways. So tell us, first of all, hello everyone, welcome. I can't scroll back up and call everybody's name, but welcome and thank you for joining me from one Facebook Live to another. In case you missed it, we have Alene, your last name Mathurin. Am I saying that right?
It's actually Mathra, but I break it down for English speakers because I speak a second language. It's Mathurin. That helps people find me and be able to spell it out. So, yes.
Okay.
Alene Mathhurin is perfect. That's fine because it's very easy to remember, but it's actually pronounced Mathhurin.
Mathhurin. Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'll remember that. Mathurin. Okay. So tell us about you outside of the nanny world.
People don't always ask me that question. So again, I want to thank you so much for having me on your wonderful, wonderful program. I think it's extremely innovative. And I am very, very glad that you're saying I'm a woman to follow. So thank you so much. Outside the nanny world, I am first a mother. I love that title. A lot of you know that I am a mother to an almost 16-year-old who wants to drive. So I love that role. I love to be mommy. Every time he says mommy, it's like, okay, yeah, he meant me. I have never really gotten used to that because as a young person, I so wanted to be a mommy. And so I play this role really well. Outside of being a mom, I often tell people that I am a writer. I absolutely love to go into the world, that imaginary world, whether I'm writing children's books, whether I'm writing about good old sex and love and intimacy, or whether I'm writing about spirituality. I love to venture into different worlds. That is where I am absolutely Alene. I'm able to go into those worlds and just daydream, and I absolutely love that world. And lastly,
Okay.
I love to tell my audience that I once heard Dr. Dyer said that we are all spiritual beings having temporary human experiences. And he remarked that the quality of our human experiences are important. So I took that to heart. So I often think of myself as given an opportunity in such a vast world to experience life, to have those beautiful human experiences. And that also means my human experiences is how I interact with you, how I interact with my sisters, my friends that are watching. And that's, fundamentally important to me.
Okay. Now, you have touched on several things that I want to ask you about. So, can as comfortable as you feel,
Okay.
into, can you tell us how you came from your childhood up to being the mover and shaker and nanny advocate that you are today?
What I will say to my audience is do not be too quick to lash out the bad experiences that have happened in your life. Some of them are so strategic, so deliberate by God and by whatever you think that source of your divinity is. My childhood, I often tell friends, was really tough. I grew up with my grandparents very early, at a very young age. At 9 years old, I would experience and face death because I saw my grandmother literally go from, this woman who's washing clothes by hand, and all of a sudden she goes into a diabetic coma and dies a day later. So there I was at 9 years old experiencing the loss of someone. That's all I had at the time. And from that point on, my life would take a lot of turns. Of course, at the time, I did not know my biological father. It is important to set the scene that I was in a rural agrarian society with no running water, no electricity. But what I did very, very well, Angela, is that I would go into this imaginary world. It is the world where I found peace. It is the world where I would often find my mother. It is the world that I would often find a father that I did not have. And there would be days that I would sit on a very big yard. And when I was out of pencils, I would write with charcoal. But what I would write, Angela, would be beautiful stories, again, in a girl. It was more like catharsis, a little child trying to find her parents. And I often say these things happened in order for me to be able to survive some of the trauma that I faced at a very young age. And so how did I get from this point into being an advocate, into being a sister's keeper? I think all of what I described allowed me to be compassionate. Buddha calls it meaning the ability to exercise compassion, the ability to empathize. All of the things that I would experience as a young child, I think in many ways gave me a heart for others. So if you know me well, you know that I'm very quick to cry, because my heart, I often say, is slaughtered very, very easily and moved by the plight of marginalized people. And Angela, none of this would be possible without the things that I was able to experience at a young age, the things that I thought at one point were, I thought was really, really bad. I look back at this and I actually think those bad things were actually my triumphs. That's where resiliency was born. That was where empathy was born. That's where the ability to learn was born. And because of that, these worlds collided. The girl who's in search of something better, the woman who's now looking at women and saying, I see that you want so much of what I wanted, and we put it together, and that's how I'm able to do the things that I'm able to do, of course, with the help and guidance of God.
Good, good. My one of my former pastors used to tell me, and my dad used to tell me this too, sometimes you go through things and it's not about you. You're going through it at that time, but God uses what you went through to bring somebody else through and help them to make it to the other side. And I have seen so many women that have come through you to make it to the other side. And what you have gone through, I thank God for that, because it gives you that inner strength, and it gives you that heart to love, and that imaginary place to go to. I love to write too. And I know exactly what you're talking about when you go into that imaginary place. When I used to get in trouble, I would go in my room and pull out my notebook, and I would just start writing. I started out with letters to God, and then started with poetry, and then speeches. And I ended up writing political speeches for councilmen. I ended up writing speeches for a whole lot of different things. But that writing that you do, the creativity that God has given you to create all the Nanny Ball and all these other things that you come up with, it's just like, I'm like, I want to be like her when I grow up. So I was like, you have inspired me just from the talk that we had. You inspired me, and I was like, okay, I've got to, I got to make it my mission. And God gave me this idea, and I was like, okay, if I can get her, I want her to be the first one. Please, please, please. And when you agreed, I was like, yes, 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 yes. So I am so glad you're here to share your story, share with us what makes you, you, and the heart that you have for nannies, for our community. I am so, so grateful for that. And I know I'm not the only one. Because I can tell by all the ladies that are in the My Nanny Circle, the number of ladies, and it continues to grow and grow and grow. I can tell how many ladies that are so appreciative of you and the things that you do. But the main thing I like is the way you don't sugarcoat it. You tell us the truth. And sometimes I just want to preach because it is the truth. I've been in the childcare field for 40 years. And when I listen to you speak, I'm like, man, she just preached today. But it is so important. Now, you mentioned your books. Don't you have a book coming out soon?
Yes. And before I address my book, Angela, I want to tell you, it's women like you that say, I look at your story and your life, and it inspires me. I want you to know that I take this to heart. And one of the things that I do not like doing is operating in a lesser version of who I was created to be. Because every time I think I'm operating in a lesser version of Alene, in many ways, I am diminishing the greatness of He who created me. And so when I look and listen to you and listen to women say, I use you as a source of inspiration, I use you as a source of guide, I sit back and I ask myself, what am I modeling? I hope that I'm modeling and showcasing that agape love that Christ has asked us to be able to give. That idea that if you have to love the people that you can see before you can claim, hey, I'm in church today, preach, pastor, preach. Before we can actually say that, I'm
Yes.
supposed to be saying to Angela that I sincerely love you. Even if you trespass against me, I still have, no choice but to love you, because that's why, and I'm just using that, of course, as an example, but I'm supposed to love divinely. The second thing that you're saying that sense of boldness and tell it as it is, and do it in such a way to tell the truth. I learned along that journey when I was going through a spiritual renaissance, because when I arrived in America, life threw me some really, really tough stuff. I often joke and say that if I was not anchored in the Word of God, if I did not know God, if I did not have families that prayed, if I did not have an aunt that prayed, I don't know how I would survive in America. And when I was going through that spiritual renaissance, I realized I was at my best when I was my authentic self. And so on my platform, I talk about the idea of living in your most authentic self, because there was a point in my life where I was basically stagnated, whether it was spiritually, whether it was in terms of career, whether it was in terms of, in fact, every aspect of my life, I felt stagnated. When I examined, because sometimes we have to go into the bowels of our lives and examine very objectively, what the heck is this? I realized at the time I was such a people's pleaser. I'm coming from a society a society that says that you're supposed to be a good girl. I'm coming from a conservative Christian society that has a special, it comes with a list of stuff that you must do. And so because of that, I was operating outside, the ideas of who I really was inside. And what happens when you don't operate in your authentic self, there is often conflict.
Yes.
And so I had to learn to go back, take a step back and say some of the things that I say sometimes on my nanny circle. And I tell the women, I tell my sisters, I tell my beautiful sisters, I say it in the absence of judgment. But one of the things that I've learned in life is that if you're not going to tell the truth, and let me just tell you, your version of the truth, if you're not able to do that, then what can you do? If we're not able to call all the things that's happening in our industry that's not right, if we're not able to concede when we do things that's wrong, how can we grow? And so that's when I made a concerted effort to say that my views may not be the most popular, but I will endeavor to live in my authentic self and tell my version of the truth.
That is so true. Oh, I'm so glad you said that, because I was a people pleaser too. And whatever, okay. I was very aggressive. So it was like, just get along with everybody. It took me 41 years to learn how to say no. And I'm still working on how to say no. And when I say no, I don't mean no to be mean or harsh, but I know my limits, and I don't try to live outside of my limits anymore. That was one thing. I was stretched. When I tell you stretched thin, I don't do it anymore. And I'm so glad that you said that. Be your authentic self. Stop trying to be someone that you're not.
Yes, and I'll add to that. What I'll add to that, Angela, is understanding your boundaries. It's very, very critical. Even in the work that I do and that we all do, there is a tendency that you're being pulled here, there, and everywhere. In the beginning, when I was not able to manage this well, I put a lot of stress on myself because, again, there are great needs out there, and important things need to be done. There are people that are going through incredible crisis sometimes, and you need to cater and help and be there. But what I learned is understanding boundaries, being able to compartmentalize. So I said, what is my work life? What is my my quiet time, very, very important. That time where I need to go back to the source. What is my family time? And because I am able to set those boundaries, I don't feel as inundated as I used to feel initially in my work. And so my message again to women: you are wives, you are lovers, you are childcare providers, you have different roles. Some of you are small business owners, some of you are going to school, and if we are not able to live with awareness, that means being able to be mindful while living, it can create an enormous amount of stress on us, because again, we have so many roles to play. So it is important to set very, very healthy boundaries. And the way you do that is being able to operate very mindfully.
Yes, definitely, definitely. Now, can you tell us about some of your books that you've written, and possibly
Sure.
the one that's out?
Yes. So many years ago, I often tell people I am both my first book was actually published by a company. So I am a published author. I am so grateful to God that He gave me that incredible opportunity. You know, I look back at life, and I look at certain things and I say, but it's only God. If it was not Him, where would I be? I often sit back and, you know, it takes me a minute sometimes to look back and say, yes, it's you, I see you. So my first book, The Hairy Fairy, it is a book about courage that I wrote to children, that was published by a company. It received really great feedback way back when. And I have altogether 6 books. You know, I have written, a guidebook for nannies, how to navigate this industry, you know, going into a home and doing childcare. What does that look like? I tell my version of my truth. Of course, you know, my studies branch off to psychology. So what I did, I used my professional studies and the experience of working as a nanny myself, and I combined the two to be able to come up with a guidebook for nannies. I also wrote a spiritual book, Nourishment for the Soul. I tell nannies that being a nanny and nanny work is only a teeny aspect of who you are as a woman. I understand that it is important to live life holistically, again, catering to all the different roles and the different aspects of your life. So my book, Nourishment for the Soul, talks about me going through a spiritual journey. I like to call it enlightenment, a renaissance, you know, saying that, oh my gosh, my views that are so different from what it was maybe 20 years ago as it relates to Christ consciousness and God and the divinity and the universe and love and compassion. So I wrote about this. I had the good fortune of working in a home with 2 dads. At the time there I was, a Southern Caribbean island, you know, Southern Caribbean women, working with 2 children in a home of a gay couple. You know, that is like okay, that was a very new thing for me. But what God would send me in this home to do is to love divinely, just as He has loved me and you and all of you that are watching. And I use that experience to write, I am a girl with 2 dads, and I love it that way. I want to make it clear that I did not write about lifestyles. What I challenge readers to do is to perhaps look at all the girls and boys that are being raised by their parents, and the idea of loving them. I think love conquereth all things. And so I'm telling her story that she's happy, she's well adjusted, she's, you know, sometimes we ask questions that perhaps we should not ask instead of just loving. You know, sometimes we have inquisitive minds. And I'm not saying that it should be at conflict to what we believe in as it relates to spirituality. But I think what's most important is that if perhaps we can love, we will begin to showcase God Himself. And I think sometimes in the process of life, even me too, I'm guilty, that we don't showcase the love of God and allow Him to do whatever He chooses to do. And my latest book that should be out right around my birthday is Repositioning Your Love Life. I am excited about that book. It is a story of love. It's a story to say to women, where are we as it relates to our love life, and what is intimacy in the realms of culture? What did culture teach us about spirit, about sex and intimacy, and about being naughty, and about swinging in the chandelier if they chose to, and about being able to explore their sexuality. I think for so many of us, because there are conflicts with culture and spirituality, we are not able to explore that facet of who we are, even when we are married. Perhaps for me, an island girl, you were taught, oh, you don't kiss in the public. And now I'm saying, kiss as much as you want to, love divinely, be able to express that, have an expression of love that is authentic to you. Be passionate, be wild. It just has to have good taste and have boundaries. So Repositioning Your Love Life is going to be out, and I am sure my sisters would absolutely love it. It's the type of book you want to grab a glass of wine on a Friday night and read.
Okay, a vacation inside of a book. Okay, all right.
I'm not advocating being naughty, sisters.
It sounds.
Yes, I am.
Sounds like a good read. And
yes.
And it's coming out around your birthday.
Yes, the release was supposed to be, my birthday is February 14th, so that whole thing about love and Valentine's, I think we had a slight delay with the second editing. I'm not sure if it's going to be out around on that exact day, but it should be out in February. It is I think it's a must read for no matter what culture you belong to, but I think as a Southern Island woman, I was able to touch on a lot, because there was some, for example, for me, some naivete as it relates to love and romance and intimacy. Again, there was always in the back of my head something very conflicting, because don't forget you're the good girl, and don't forget your grandfather would not like that type of behavior. And there have been very crazy times in my life. I would be like, I hope my granddad didn't really see me. He would be embarrassed.
Okay.
But, at least you're being honest about, exploring that. I think that's the thing. We're just taught to hide. We're taught that there's something wrong with that aspect of our lives.
Yes.
And I don't think it is. And I'm advocating to women to exploit, because you know what, Angela? When our love life is not balanced or not in a healthy place, it has negative trickling effects, because it affects every area of our lives.
Yes. It does. I'm married, and I know if my husband and I are conflicted over something, it affects every other area of my life, because my brain keeps in the back of my mind. I'm still thinking about that. And I may be smiling in your face, and I'm trying to concentrate on what you're saying, but my brain is steady thinking about that. And what he should have said, that I should have told him. And he did this. Oh man. And until it's, we have time to sit down and we talk about it, we go to what we call our war room. And in our war room, we have to talk about it. We have to be honest. We have to listen, not to respond, but listen to put yourself in the other person's shoes so that you can understand. But you are so right. A lot of things, they are a hampering on whether our love life is fine. And it just creates balance, because if your love life is fine, it creates those little happy endorphins, and everybody else benefits from it. So
And the other thing that for a lot of married ladies, I often have friends that's just so eager to tell me, my husband, I'm married, and it's almost like there is a path that we're told that we search for that love, we find that love, we get married, and that's it. And I'm saying to women that are married, by the way, that's the time your work has just started,
Yeah.
because we become so complacent. Women, I see, become very complacent when they're married. And so I'm saying, you know, be careful about the granny ties that you tie your hair with in the night, and be careful about all of a sudden, because you're married, that you feel like you should not be, you know, going to Victoria's Secrets ever so often. That's the time you begin to work your you know, that aspect of you. Don't get, make sure he's not bored when he's with you. Make sure he says, who is she? Keep him working. And I think, again, we get so complacent with the idea, with the titles, husband, wife, so I have it, so I have arrived. And that's where you begin to see the violations. And again, this is not to say that I'm justifying bad behavior. I'm just saying that, is it possible, as women that get married, is it possible we have the mindset that, oh, so we don't have to do that much work anymore? Yes, visit Victoria's Secrets, you know, book a
Yes.
nice getaway. My book spoke about how often I would go into this cabin up in the countryside, and I mean, you have to read the book. But make it spicy.
Juicy details. Okay, so tell us about, I know you have scheduled a meet and greet for the nannies that are is it New Jersey? I know
Yes.
you have a meet and greet. Tell us about that and how you came up with that idea.
Well, last summer, what I did is pretty much, I was at the playgrounds in New Jersey, because I wanted to hear, I wanted to connect with nannies. I wanted to have that personal rapport with them, not just over the telephone or one person connecting a nanny with me. There were many, many days that I would drive to a park, a playground, and I would just stay there and I would observe. While I observed, it allowed me to be able to see what was happening with nannies. But then I started speaking with nannies, and I understand even more so, for example, in New Jersey, the need for us to be able to connect, and the need, to be together and ask important questions like, why is there such a disconnect as it relates to things like salaries, workload, and all those things? We need to have broader conversation. What I will tell you, Angela, a community, no matter if they are nannies or doctors or nurses or teachers that are informed, are able to do better. They are less likely to be violated. And I find that oftentimes when there are gross violations that take place within the nanny community, as it relates to maybe workers not being fairly compensated or treated, those workers are sometimes not connected. They are working in isolation. So the meet and greet in New Jersey is to say to nannies that, hey, the nanny circle is there. There are incredible networks all online, stuff like this tonight. Stay connected, get to find out what's happening within your community, and stay and get educated about what your rights are. I often tell the nannies, there is a guy by the name of David Foster Wallace. He was talking about the fact that there were two fish swimming in the waters, and an older fish passed by, said to them, hey boys, how's the water? And the two fish would look at each other and would say, oh, what the heck is water? And the reason why I'm saying this is because I find that even within the nanny community, some of us that have been doing this work for so long are asking, what the heck is the nanny community? We don't understand our rights. We do not understand, how many hours we're supposed to work for overtime to step in. We don't understand what are the, we work without contracts. We don't understand what's the average, hourly rate in our given, area. And so the meet and greet is to be able to connect professionals from all over New Jersey and to offer a sense of community. And so that is the most important reason why we're coming together.
Okay. Now, do you have a place, a location? Because
yes, it is at the
asked about their Deidre, I do believe. Yeah, she says she's in New Jersey. She wants to know where it is in New Jersey.
Oh, hi, Deidre. It's in Montclair, New Jersey. I chose Montclair because of accessibility. So there's mass transportation, both train and, buses. And if you're driving, there's parking. It's at the Salvation Army. I will be putting out a registration page. It is completely free, by the way, for anybody that's asking. So it is at the Salvation Army in Montclair. It's like a landmark type building. But again, on my Nanny Circle, there will be a registration page. I'm working from home tomorrow, so it will be up. Awesome, Deidre. It's 20 minutes away from you. So I hope to see you there. It is on the 27th from 10 o'clock. And again, it's, Angela, it's very informal. It is, we did it 2 years ago and the nannies absolutely loved it. We have great conversation. It is more, it's an examination, more, it's like going for a general examination. So that's what it is. Like, well, let's find out what's happening in there. Let's find out whether we are accomplices sometimes to some of the violations that take place because we fail to get informed. And so that's the type of conversation that's going to take place there. And hopefully we have just been speaking with, people up in Montclair. We are hopefully going to be able to do a walk or something out there, just like we did in Central Park. So okay. I will announce all of that a little later, but they need to be connected. Okay. And by the way, Angela, what we keep hearing is that so many of so many we hear over and over, I don't need to connect with nannies. And
all right. Yes.
And in the absence of judgment, let me just say to you, part of there are several reasons why we see this thing coming. And again, just putting in my psychology, that whole thing about psychology, my psychology hat on. At one point, the nanny profession was often seen as a profession that was reserved for the illiterate women. That was, that was ingrained into so many people that it's not a real profession. Oftentimes they would ask women, when are you going to get a real job? And so I think when you see comments like that, there's still a bit of shame that I actually work as a professional nanny for some nannies. There are situations where nannies themselves have violated their fellow peers. So what happens is that the nannies they don't trust anymore. So there maybe was a clique of nannies and somebody got burnt, quote unquote, colloquially speaking. And so they no longer they don't trust anybody. So we're saying, hey, come try my Nanny Circle, try a group of phenomenal workers from every diaspora, every ethnicity, culture, race, ideology, a rich melting pot, an orchestra, like I often tell people that the community is. And what we're able to do is like, you're in Texas and I'm here. Right. So we're able to network with so many of our sisters, Emily, people all over. And so do not work in isolation. It is important that you find that sense of community. And when you do that, it will offer you, I think, more like a cushion, like in the event something happens, that I have a bit of support out there. And there are organizations like the NDWA also in New York that is awesome. So we can connect you with so many great resource people and organizations. So you should not be working in isolation.
That's so true. Because I was telling someone the other day, I was dependent upon my early education, uh, early childhood education degree, and
Mm-hmm.
I was isolated. And just like every once in a while, I would find a play date, or and it just happened to be there. I didn't know that there were nanny groups on Facebook until I was at the International Nanny Training Day last year. And
Wow.
Chanel said, I'm going to add you to this nanny group. I said, what nanny group? What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay. And from there on, I was like, wow, I have been missing out on all of this. I can't believe I missed out on. And it was like, I'm on a roll trying to play catch up, where everybody else is, oh, you don't know this? I had no clue what MB was, what DB was, what NK was. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
what are you all talking about? It is so
Mm-hmm.
important that we link together. It is so important that we are not isolated. And if you all know of anyone who is a nanny, or you meet a nanny at the park, invite them to have a play date. Invite them to the nanny group on Facebook. Invite them. Because when you work in isolation and you don't know, you will accept anything. You will work without a contract. You will say, oh, well, that sounds good. And it's not good. It's against the law, half of the things that some of the parents want you to do. And we have to be advocates for each other. We have to look out for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't look out for each other, nobody else is going to look out for us. You may happen to be, have some book smarts and be able to write up your own contract and say, okay, well, I know I'm not going to be cheated, but not all of us are like that. Not all of us know this.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to help each other. And that's one of the reasons I do ask the name, so we can help each other. Okay, I'm
And
coming down off my
that
soap.
is you. No, that's no, I hear what you're saying, and it's so, so very, very important. But I'll tell you one of the things that I will say to nannies. If you can purge yourself of ego, and we all have it, you will begin to realize how ego is going to prevent you from growing. So very early in my professional life, because that was not my background. In St. Lucia, I worked with the airlines, and there I was coming into America and working as a nanny. And I had to resolve this at the time in my head, to say, okay, this is the work that I did. But because, again, I had drank off the cup of so many naysayers that had their faulty ideas about the work of nannies. And in the process, they discredited so many women. I think the day I got so very passionate about the nanny community is the time that I saw that somebody posted that women were coming from the Caribbean with, degrees or whatever, and they were working as nannies. And I thought to myself, there must be a freaking reason, I'm sorry, that they're doing that, because perhaps they're earning more, perhaps it's working for them. And the message, really, the subliminal message, was that the nanny work is, again, reserved for the illiterate. And I say to people over and over, there's so many workers with master's degree and bachelor's degree. There's so many. It's so varied that you cannot have a one-size-fit-all model. And what happened back how many years ago in the nanny community and where we started with nanny work is not what it is today. Women are getting educated. That's why I keep saying to nanny sisters, do not tell me that you are experienced 20 years. I've been doing this for 20 years, so I don't need training. You must get training. You must be educated in childcare. If you are going to work with something, you have to understand how it operates. And so you must understand child development. I'm not saying to you that you need a 4-year college degree to understand child development, but through my organization, I'm a big advocate of solid education. You know, we have training, for example, National Nanny Training Day. We're talking about the different phases of child development. We're talking about, you know, putting together contracts and resumes. So again, I think, Angela, at the end of the day, we get from the nanny community, from the nanny profession, exactly what we invest in. You know, I met you at Nanny Palooza, a weekend of incredible learning and training.
Yes.
And I say to nannies, why aren't you at Nanny Palooza? Why aren't you at training? Why aren't you getting the necessary training that's there so that you become more marketable? Because what I see is that we love to be in a comfort zone. So I have had that job for 7 years. That job will come to an end. When you go out there to look for another job, what separates you from the hundreds of other nannies that's looking for that same job?
That's true.
And it says that's very, very important for us to consider as a community.
Yes, that is very, very important. Now, I have another question for you before I open the floor to everyone else. Tell us about the ball. I wanted so badly to come, but I had already had 2 trips scheduled, and I was like, ah! Before I even found out that Nanny Ball existed, I was like, okay, so I got a travel in November, I got to travel in December. There's no way I could fit the Nanny Ball in between those 2. So I want to come to the Nanny Ball. It is, honestly, it is on my board. It is on my dream board.
Okay.
I want to come to the Nanny Ball. I got 11 months to get it together.
You have 11 months.
11 months
I extend a personal invitation to you to attend the Nanny Ball. I think, and I say that with humility, once you're able to come into that ball and experience it, I think then you really walk away with exactly what the ball is. So I often tell people that the idea for the Nanny Ball was definitely, it came from someone that's definitely greater than I am. I heard it very, very clearly. As an immigrant at one point in this country, during Christmas, I was always alone. I was with Elijah, and how I longed to be with my family in St. Lucia, and I couldn't be with my family. And I knew that it was not isolated. I knew that there were so many women, immigrants like me, so many women that just needed that sense again of community. And so while I was walking in Chelsea one day, I heard very clearly in my spirit, you should have a Nanny Ball. You'll bring them together, break bread with them, and let them see what community is all about. It's like their own staff party. And while I was going on the bus, I couldn't understand why this thing was bothering my spirit. I was traveling home from work, and I kept hearing that it's their own corporate party. They will feel like they are professionals. You will celebrate them. You will celebrate their profession, and they will feel like they matter. My gosh, I took it, Angela. I prayed over it. I asked God to guide it. And I started the Nanny Ball, and I thought to myself, what am I doing in America, in New York, hosting a ball? I had never done that before. It's not like I'm such a party person, but this year is going to be our 4th year. Next year, we're going to be celebrating 5 years of the ball. And we are now a trademarked event. I know so many people are asking me all over the United States about the Nanny Ball. I want you to know that it is trademarked, so we have the rights to it. The reason why it was important for me to do that, it was very important for me to be able to protect my collateral work. It was very, very important to protect that. So we are excited about this year's ball. I think the thing about the ball that's really, really good is that we have a theme every year. And I often spend quiet time on a place where I pray and I ask God, what is that theme? And as my spirit guides me, then I go in and I'm able to put the ball together. So the ball this year is going to be December 15th. I think it's going to be as beautiful or even better as other balls. I am speaking with a company in a few weeks that's hopefully going to be one of our corporate sponsors this year. It is going to be in a space where we can attract up to 1,000 nannies if we had to.
Wow.
You know, I have left it in the mighty hands of God. And once it's there, I believe that anything is possible. What I do have out here, Angela, and I say this with a sense of such gratitude. Nothing that I've been able to create is done alone. I have some incredible, incredible, incredible women that are like the wind beneath my wings, women that have been there from day one, and women that have from all backgrounds. And even while I was creating my nanny circle, I heard very clearly that it would be a rainbow, that you would pull women of every different race and, you know, every different area together. And so these are the women that allow me to do the things that I do, the Latinas, the white nannies, the Caribbean, my awesome Caribbean sisters, women like you know, personal friends that are there to say, Alene, if you need this, I'm there. And in the end, we have been able to create something that the New York Times actually wrote about. And for me, that is,
Wow.
for me, I look back and I say, God, I see you. I see you, God. I see him.
Well,
I see him.
when I saw that and I saw the pictures after the ball, I was like, look at all those Cinderellas. That was what came to my mind, because how often do we get a chance, an opportunity to dress up and to be the belle of the ball, to be, you know, because I'm not putting my profession down, but we're so busy taking care of others all the time that we sometimes don't take care of ourselves. And when I saw that, and I thought about Cinderella, and she's taking care of the house, and she's taking care of the kids and the sisters and all that other stuff. And I thought about us. I said, we take care of the house, we take care of the kids, we take care of, you know, the parents. We're the glue sometimes that holds that household together. And we get to go and turn that pumpkin into a coach, and, you know, those little mice into, we get to be the Cinderella of the ball. And I saw that and I was like, I want to be a Cinderella too. so I was like, okay, I got to get to this ball.
You know, I'm really sorry. I just saw Marlene says St. Lucia is watching. You know, I did tell you very early, Angela, that I'm from St. Lucia, and
Yes.
and it's, you know, we have people that's going to view this video from all over, and I'm sorry for doing that, but since I saw St. Lucia is watching, it is the greatest island paradise. I'm sorry, this is, you know, on just
about you.
I have to do that.
And don't ever put that where you come from and what you come
Oh my
from.
gosh.
There is a purpose behind it. Don't ever be, I told somebody this today, I don't know who I told, don't ever be ashamed of who you are and where you come from, because there is a purpose behind it. And God uses everything, not just part of you, but everything. Every part of you is being used. And
yes,
when your sisters and brothers and family and from St. Lucia see you and they see, she made it, I can do it too. You inspire people to get up. And honestly, I was like, one day I saw you and you were saying about, I know you nanny sisters. I know what you think. And I'm thinking, okay, she caught me. Honestly, I was like, she's talking about me. I said, okay, yeah, well, I can't go that way. Let me turn back now. So don't ever be ashamed of where you come from and what and I had to learn that the hard way, because I've always tried to be such a people pleaser and well, yeah, and I told them all the good stuff, but I learned that all the bad stuff that I've been through has been a testimony to other people to say, I may have started out here And God took me from here to all the way up here. And that's not even the top of it. He's still steady taking me higher. So you got some other places to go. And I can just see it all in you. And I was like, I gotta have her on. In you. So thank Lucia. Yes. Welcome. Thank you for watching.
Yay for St. Lucia. Yay for St. Lucia. And all the nanny parents, by the way, the nanny employers that are watching, I invite you. I do a lot of work with different mom groups, and I use it, Angela, because tourism is really a big thing in St. Lucia. It is, and I use it to tell parents to please visit St. Lucia. It's absolutely the island paradise. It is, the people are absolutely amazing. It is the place of my birth. It is home. And, I had to take a little minute, Angela, to acknowledge that, because part of who I am, a lot of the values, the fact that I'm not morally bankrupt, all of that came from, that place that I grew up. And so I'm very, very proud of that. But by the way, back to you were saying to me, sorry, before I cut you, talking about St. Lucia. You were saying the Nanny Ball allows us that chance to tell, to have that Cinderella story. Yeah. And that is so true. Last December, it just felt like a few weeks ago, when we had our last ball, the nanny said that, 1 o'clock is just too early to go home. And so hopefully this year, the ball will go, we will extend the hours as much.
Because I'm in the bed by 10:30, 11 o'clock every night. I'm thinking to myself, can I stay up that late?
Well, you will. The energy in the room is, I have never, every time I host this ball, I go back and I begin to say, oh my gosh, there's so much strength in our community. There's a lot of talent in the nanny community. The rich orchestra that we have is very evident in the things that we are able to do. If we work together, nanny diasporas throughout the United States and the world, if we come together, do you know the incredible things that we are able to accomplish? And I think we have not recognized that. We have not recognized our strength is in each other. Together, that we are stronger, no matter if it's a white nanny group, no matter if it's a predominantly Caribbean group, no matter if it is a Latina group, no matter if it's a Filipino group. If we're able to come together, our commonalities is greater than what divides us. And that is a message that must resonate. It must spread like wildfire within nanny diasporas everywhere, because if we don't do that, we will be just as guilty, as people that, some people that violate nannies, because we learn from each other. We harness the strength of each other. And it's fundamentally important that we do that.
Yes. And just like you were saying about us learning from each other, you have a degree in psychology. There are so many nannies that have degrees in other things. I have a business degree, but I love what I do. I love working with children. And I think my business degree came more out of rebellion, because my mom and dad were teachers, and I was like, I'm not being a teacher. They told me, you work well with kids, go do something with kids. No. I want to make some money. And me being 18, 18-year-olds know everything. I went and got me a degree in business, not knowing that I got to start down here at the bottom of the totem pole. I'm like, I want to make $50,000, $60,000 a year. No, you don't start way up here, baby. You start down here. So, I learned the hard way, but all of our nanny community, all of the wonderful women that I've had on the show, the ones that I've talked to behind the scenes, we all have other things that are in us, the creativity, the degrees, everything that's within us. You never know unless you talk to someone. We are well educated. We have master's degrees. We have doctor's degrees. Because we choose to do what we love to do does not make us less. It makes us more because you see what you want to do and you go after. Whereas most people see, well, I can do this, so I'm going to do what I can do instead of going what you're passionate about. I could have stayed in the business world and been at that at six figures right now, but I love children. I came back to my first love. This is what I love to do. And because it's what I love to do, it's not a job. It's a love.
Yeah.
I have love for what I do.
Yeah. And I hear you, people sometimes say to me, why, if you advocate so much on behalf of nannies, why aren't you working as a full-time nanny? And I often push back to say to them that I have worked for 16 years as a professional nanny. I have worked, I have been able to, fortunate enough to work very good jobs as a nanny. I realized that I needed to find purpose, and each and every one of us need to be able to do what we absolutely love. And though I am very good with children, I love working with families. I have had the good fortune of working with high profile families. I realized that writing and advocacy work is my passion. That is what I was created to do. That's what brings me so much joy, being able to run an organization like My Nanny Circle. I think I am in a better position to be able to serve fellow nannies. And so, of course, I have clients that will call me 2 days a week, 1 day a week. You know how we do it in the nanny community. There might be a family that's traveling and might need somebody to travel for a few days, and I can fill in. But no matter what you do in life, you have to be able to find the thing that actually moves your spirit and makes your spirit come on fire. For me, motivating women, for me, motivating nannies, for me, telling the stories of nannies in a way that is true. They're authentic stories, not the watered down version of what people think that nanny work is, but being out there and in many ways a poster child for those women that I respect so much, to say that the things that you think you know about the nanny community and the women that do the work ain't so, or it's not true. And of course, to carry a message to nannies that we must hold ourselves accountable to higher standards. The danger with not doing that is really when we fall and feed stereotypes. When we do not hold ourselves accountable, we run the risk of saying, oh, I told you that's what they do. And so it is important that, especially in the 21st century nannying, it's not what it was 10 years ago. I mean, the money that nannies work, the monies that some nannies make, you go, oh my gosh. And so sometimes I say to people, don't look at the nanny community and feel sorry for them. There's no need to.
Yeah.
We're okay.
Yeah.
The thing that you think you know about them, that ain't so. And we are moving along really, really well. We are making incredible strides in the nanny community, and it's the work of women throughout, whether it's the INA, whether it's, again, NWA, whether it's, the different groups, Nanny Collaborative, Nannies for Us, whether it's My Nanny Circle, all groups together, bringing workers together, Nubian nannies. They are all over. So connect and do what you have to do and be part of this great movement that's taking place in the nanny community.
Yes. Now, I have one. Before I ask you the last two questions, if you all have anyone watching, if you have any questions, please start typing now, because there is a delay between the time you type and the time that we see it. So if you have questions, please start typing now. And I do believe Deidre says, I need to learn more about this God. He sounds amazing. Remember we talked about that, Alene? Remember we talked about that, about your life story, bringing someone closer to God. Amen. Amen.
You,
Amen. All day long. Amen. So,
you know, if you don't tell your story in the most truthful way, you will run the risk of your story, the story that's supposed to be what will motivate and give someone hope. If you
yeah.
try to hide it, because so many times we try to hide our past, we try to hide our humble beginnings. I find even women that I know that say to me, I'd say, do you remember when we used to eat such and such? And they would say, oh, I don't remember. And I say, yes, I do remember. Again, our stories are not accidents. Our
Right.
humble beginnings serve as great, foundations for who we will become. The important thing in life is living in constant gratitude to the source, constant gratitude to God, no matter if gratitude that I came from a small agrarian society in St. Lucia. Again, no running water, no electricity, and I'm here in New Jersey, and I've been able to do some very incredible and humble work. You should not negate your story. You should not look at your humble beginning and begin to go on a pity patter. Oh, why me? Why did I go through this? I understand that it hurts. I understand that, things happen. But ask yourself, what did that story and what did that life come to teach? Never forget your past, because if you don't know your past, you would not know where you're going, because you will not understand the trajectory of your life. I say to women, live in constant gratitude. And Angela, I think that's what's so lacking in so many of us, that we fail to receive, because every time you open your spirit and your heart and begin to be grateful for basic things, you begin to say to the universe, dispense more, because I'm releasing. And whatever you give out comes back to you. So if it's gratitude, you will get so much back. And I see Jennifer is saying there's no shame in the game. God have your back. Your path is designed for you. I mean, I could not have articulated it any better. So ladies, if you were in a situation where something horrible happened to you. I speak with women that were victims of domestic violence. I speak with women that were raped and abused as children. I speak to women that married men that violated them in atrocious ways. I speak to fatherless and motherless children every single time. And what I say to them is, I am a poster child for being at one point both motherless and fatherless. And your circumstances, you have the capacity within you to change the trajectory of your life, no matter how young you are. You just have to believe that it served a purpose. And so when we don't tell our stories, how can we give hope to other people? How can we say to other people that it's going to get better? What is the shame? The shame is not telling where God has taken you from and where he continues to lead you. I think that's the embarrassment of not acknowledging sometimes the grateful heart, the graciousness, sorry, of God, and how incredible he is, and so quick to love all of us, not me and you, Angela, but each and every one of us.
Everyone, each of us. Now, my last two questions, because you have given us a sermon and a half tonight. But I love it. I love every minute of it. For someone that's new to the nanny world, what is one piece of advice? If you could only give one piece of advice to them, what would that be? I know you're going to have to think about that one for a minute.
I'm a thinker. Important things like this, I love to think. If it's just one piece of advice, I say to nannies, if you don't have love in your heart, you would not be able to serve effectively as a nanny, because it could be very challenging. But love is what's going to provide a cushion on the days when the challenges become tough. Love is going to allow you to tolerate things that you would not think that you could have tolerated. And love is going to be what you will need to be to do to, you know, to give to yourself on the days again that it gets really tough. So I think I would say to people to love divinely. Because children, if we're going to work with children, Angela, they need love. It's not to make all the money that, you know, that's out there to be made. It's not to say that, oh, you know what, I'm going to achieve all of that. The most important thing is to be able to love, because when you love children, when you love what you do, all the things will follow. You'll have good boundaries. You'll have good work ethics, because you honestly love whatever you're doing. So I think that's very important.
Great. Great, great, great. Now, my last question is, those of us that
Hey, Mervyn, sorry, I didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
I said those of us who have been in it for a while, and we have had our years in. What is one thing that you would say to us, a piece of advice or words of wisdom, or whatever you want to call it? What is the one thing that you would say to us that have been it for a while?
And you know, sometimes I'm brutally honest, and I always start by saying, I say that in the absence of judgment.
Okay.
I think some of us nanny sisters have become too complacent. We don't understand that greatness lies within us. We are too stagnant. It is God that he said to the Israelites, you've been in one place for way too long. I think some of us have settled so much. We don't understand in the nanny world that there are various levels of nannying and different types of nannying. And for some of us, based on our communities, we sort of settle. And I'm so against this whole settlement. And that is why we're saying this year to ruffle the nest, that comfortable place that we've been sitting for way too long. You know, there's celebrity nannying, there's high profile nannying. There are all different types of nannying. And so I want to ask nannies, what is your idea of arriving at your apex in the nanny world? You know, what is that idea? And again, I don't think we take sometimes the opportunities that are available to us. Perhaps we have been conditioned to believe that we're supposed to be settling for, you know, that job, you know, there's a job. There is much more to be explored in the nanny community. Abraham Maslow says that you have to be able to arrive at your apex. So many of us have taken the step, one step at a time. We have started with just being able maybe to work just with one child, maybe just CPR. And now we have something else. We may have a degree. Maybe we might learn to swim. Maybe we might know child development. What I'm saying to you is, when you've done all of that, where do you go? And might I add, where the heck do we go? And there's much more. The other thing that I want to say to veteran nannies is, you know, so many of you are also, you fail to realize, and we fail to realize, let me add myself in there, that we are also entrepreneurs. We don't explore that greatness. If you're able to manage and be the glue that can hold sometimes, you know, well-accomplished families together, what is the glue that holds you together? What are you doing for you? What are you doing when you turn a certain age and perhaps you can't do nanny work anymore? What does your life look like? Are you setting foundations for rainy days, for later days? You know, so I wake up the spirit of women and I say, for you great bakers, for you seamstresses, for you that are able to, you know, put together incredible resumes, for you that's able to do incredible things, the chefs that we have in the nanny community, you know, the bakers, all of that. Is it possible that we can explore our entrepreneurial spirit? Is it possible that we can dare ourselves to think outside the box? So yes, Angela, that's what I would say for us, veteran nannies, quote unquote, that have been there for a long time, is that there is an air of complacency. There is a false cushion that we're sitting on, and that we're not thinking sometimes of the tomorrows. And when I visit nannies at the park and they're trying to get up from the seat and they're in their early 60s and they say, Lean, I've pushed the strollers for so long, my knees now are giving way. I ask myself, did they, what did they plan down the line? And so, sisters, again, I say it in the absence of judgment. There is greatness in each and every one of us. Being a nanny and doing nanny work is just a small aspect of what you do and who you are. There are reservoirs of talents inside of you. If you would search deep inside and find it, you will find that, yes, you will still be able to do nanny work and still be able to explore your greatest potential, no matter what it is, so that you will make space and you will make provisions for the rainy days, because that is the biggest thing that I'm seeing out there, Angela, that sometimes nannies over the years get paid off the books week after week after week. The years go by and all of a sudden they're 65 and there was no provision for the rainy days, and they suddenly get up and they're like, Lean, I can't find a job. So let's think outside the box and let's set greater goals, long-term and short-term goals. That's just to take us where we need to get to in order to get to our apex.
Yes, definitely, definitely, definitely. I totally agree with you. And that is one of the reasons that Ask the Nanny exists, because I'm getting to that transition point of, you know what? Your lower back is hurting, your neck is hurting, you turn this way, your knees are giving out, you can't go up those stairs like you used to, can't run after those kids like you used to. 2-year-olds faster than you? Nope. You can't. You have to look out for yourself. You have to there's something inside of you. Like I said, we all have other passions that are inside of us. I asked God last March, it's been almost a year. I said, Lord, I'm getting too over this. My body is breaking down from 40 years of carrying babies on my hip. To this day, I have degenerative, what is it called? The doctor took x-rays and found out that my spine is curved. And he said, wow. Guess you carried those babies on the left side. I said, yeah, how do you know that? He said, your spine is going like that. I was like, so I have to find another avenue. But my entrepreneurial spirit, there are so many different things that I have put my irons in the fire, put my hands on, that I can do. So I am a firm believer of having more than one stream of income coming in. And if you got that more than one stream, yes, do nanny part-time, but have something else where if that nanny job ends, all of a sudden, you got something else still coming in that will hold you until you find the next job, or until you create a new job, or until whatever happens, you got something else that's going to keep you. So I totally, 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 totally agree with you when you said, look for those rainy days, because they're coming. Live long. They are. They're coming. They are coming.
Absolutely. And that's why in New York, we're having, My Nanny Circle is hosting, the first nanny fair, which is like a marketplace for nannies. And it's on June 23rd in Brooklyn. And the whole intention behind this is to, again, give nannies, allow them to see that they can go in there, if they are entrepreneurs, whether they are cooks and bakers, whether they make jewelry, whatever, and they can go out and they can sell their products or services. So it's going to be something outside where nannies will have their own booths and they can, they can sell their stuff. I think once that's done, it will birth something inside so many of them, to say to them that this is something I can cushion on. This is, and so many of them have other passions. To be able to explore that, I think, is fundamentally important, because we have to understand that we have to be 100%, take 100% responsibility for our lives.
Yes.
If we can approach life like this, you are responsible for you. You set this the scene, and this you allow things to come into your life. If you believe in spirituality, God consciousness, once you ask, he says you shall receive. So once you receive, it's up to you to be the good steward, to be able to work those things. And I think the way it starts is by doing exactly what you did, Angela. And I want to commend you for what you have done, to be able to ask God for, what is my next path, and to be able to work diligently with what you're doing. I think that is also a source of inspiration. When I met you at Nanny Palooza last year, who would have thought that would be here tonight,
Yes.
doing this? It's not a dream, because so many nannies say to me, you know what, Alene, I dream one day of having, my place where I'm going to have, my little restaurant. And I say, stop dreaming, do it, get up and do it. I had to leave. I often tell nannies that I had to sort of give up a corporate job that I had, and I thought it was all about flying here, there, and everywhere, and follow my passion. My passion was, and still is, running my nonprofit organization through My Nanny Circle. Is being able to write and produce the things. That's what makes me Alene. That's what makes me happy. And we all must find the thing that makes us happy, and understand that we can do several things at one time if we are focused. Too many times we have the idea that, oh, I'm just doing nanny work and that's all I can do. We fail to realize what Christ was saying in the parable of the 5 talents. Though he was talking about money, we can equate this to true talents. God does not give us one talent. He gives us a multiplicity of talents. It's up to us to say, am I going to bury this one and bury that one and bury that one, and say, you know what, I was scared that somebody would say that I'm only doing this for money. He's going to hold us accountable to those talents if we do not discover them. So many times we do not discover our talents because we're too busy on social media. We spend every waking hours looking at people's pseudo worlds, the worlds that's not realities, those false worlds that people create. And the sense of depression, there is a study that says that there is a mass depression happening in this world because, oh, I see Angela doing this, and Angela posted this, and Angela is eating this, and I'm not eating this. Oh, my life is so freaking bad. Meanwhile, Angela's world is a pseudo world. It's not real. So instead of wasting your time going through every single post and commenting on every single post, use that energy and that strength to produce something. Your children are watching. Greatness lies within you. It is not to say that you want everything. Yes, we all should get to our apex. You must explore the multiplicity of talents that God gave to each and every one of us. You see the danger, Angela,
Yes.
is that some of us do not explore those talents. But Angela decides to explore her talents, and you're all upset with Angela because Angela discovered her talents and she's using it. So I say to women, use your time wisely. Put the phone down. Spend quiet time with God.
Yes.
That's when you're going to pick up the gold nuggets that he's going to drop, because he's going to whisper. God does not whisper in a heart that's full of confusion, in a spirit that's always wild. He whispers where there is calmness. That's why meditation and being in that quiet place is important. So many times I think I see people wasting their time on social media. And though I spend time on social media to do my work, I'm very, very cautious about the amount of time that I give to social media, because I realize if you are not careful, you're going to get saturated in this whole thing and realize that you've wasted a month, wasted 2 months, wasted a year, wasted 3 months just looking at browsing at what? When you could be planning, when you could be saying, let me start a small business. The amount of time that people waste on social media when they could be doing something that would benefit them is alarming. I can't wait to see the statistics that's out there. So greatness is within you. It starts with spending quiet time in the spirit. It starts with acknowledging the Christ consciousness, the greatness of God. It starts by saying that if it wasn't God, I would be nowhere. It starts by, very important, I'll tell you, Angela, it starts by getting rid of the toxic things that prevent us from seeing what our greatness is.
Preach.
So many times we cannot find our greatness because inside of us there's so many toxic things. We are envious, we are jealous, we have hatred, and so we cannot go deep in the reservoir to find the greatness in us. And it starts with just purging our spirits and living our own authentic self and negating to consider what pseudo worlds that's out there.
Yes. And leave the naysayers behind. Make your haters your motivators. I have been told too many times, oh, nannies don't make that much money. Nannies don't do this. You can't get that. You can't get this. If I had listened to everybody who told me what I cannot do, and everybody who listened to, oh, that's not economically sound. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't, when God plants a seed, he gives you a baby. He brings that baby in. It burns in your belly and it moves and it stirs you and you can't sleep at night because you got heartburn because the baby wants to eat and you eating stuff. And then when you give birth to that baby, oh my goodness. When I started Ask the Nanny, it was through my company, the Third Parent Academy. And it was in order to give back to the nannies, in order to recognize them. It was National Nanny Recognition Week. And I was doing it the whole month long because I had never experienced National Nanny Recognition Week. I didn't know it existed until I joined and got connected with other nannies. That's why it's so important that you get connected, because parents don't know. I wanted the parents to know this is what's going on. This is what's happening. Respect your nanny. Appreciate them. Show that, I don't care. It's just this one time. At least this one time. Show them how much they mean to your family, how much they mean to your children, how much they mean to you. That's where it started. I have gone from there, and God just said, keep going, keep going. I said, well, what am I supposed to talk about? Think I didn't flop? Oh, yes. There was one night, two people came and watched. And I was like, okay, that's it. I'm stopping. And God said, keep going. Keep going. Don't worry about who's not doing it. I gave this to you. So if you keep going and you have faith and you keep going, I'm going to build this. This is September, people. This is just January. This is 4 months. 4 months. I have seen, oh my gosh, doors open that I didn't think I could walk through. People are asking me, can you like my page? Can you like my page? Let's join this group. Can you come join this group? And I'm like, what is going on? I've been on Facebook how many years? Almost 8-9 years. In the last 4 months, I've gotten more requests to like, to become a part of things. And I'm like, it's overwhelming because I never knew all of this existed. But if you get connected and you use the talents that God gave you, I used to do hair, still do, braid hair. When I got my divorce, braiding hair and doing weaves, that's how I bought my children's winter clothes. That's how I paid the rent. I had a home daycare during the day, did hair at night. I had Meals on Wheels. I used to cook dinners. Neighbors said, "Oh, that smells good. You got my uncle wants some." It started the Meals on Wheels. It paid the bills. You tap into all talents that God has blessed you with, and you will graduate from one thing to another, to another, to another. And now I make videos to make parents, I put it on my YouTube channel to make it easy for parents. Okay, you have a picky eater, hide vegetables. Here's how you do it. You want to do this? Okay, here's easy crock pot meals to make it easy for families. My tagline or motto from my business is we care for the whole family. So on my business page, you will see things for the nannies. You will see things for the families. You will see things for the children. You will see things that will help educate, things that, you know, make you think. Parents need to know, you know, what's going on with their nannies. Nannies need to know what's going on in the parents' lives. All of this is for the whole family. We care for the whole family, which means the parents, the children, and the nannies. And even in their family, grandma and grandpa too. But you talent.
And that's, I think that's, you know, that's pretty much what I would leave with the nannies. You know, you use you, for example, as a guide, as a source of inspiration, as to say that I started something. And by the way, when you're starting something, you don't really need to start something that, you know, not because Angela started this thing that I have to do this thing.
Right.
Again, that's why I say to nannies, operate within your own authentic self, having true knowledge of what your passion is. Because if you're just going to be somebody that just copies what everybody's doing because you lack creativity, eventually it's going to be at a standstill. You will be able to do it for a few years and it's not going to last. And again, the danger in life is not exploring your greatest potential. So live in your authentic self, start something that you want to do, know that greatness lies within you, and stop thinking about the injustices of yesterday. I think so many times I hear women say, "Oh, Alene, I was going to do that, but last week I tried to do that and that person just messed me up. And when I was in Antigua, somebody did something to me. And by the way, in New York 2 years ago, I started this and these people did not support me." All I'm saying is I understand the injustices that was done to you, that, you know, that you experienced. Stop recalling them over and over. Deal with it. And I don't mean, I say that in the absence of judgment, because unless we are able to work and realize that we have to resolve the conflicts in our lives, we cannot move forward. And we are unable to move forward because, again, we are living with traumas of the past, the injustices of the past. So tomorrow when you get up, say, "Yes, thank you, God, I'm up. It's a new day. I will scribble the desires of my heart right on that blank slate that you're presenting to me. I'll live in infinite gratitude to you. I will know that I'm a composite of God, a great God, a mighty God, a God that's all-knowing, all-powerful. And because I know I am part and parcel of greatness, it must be true that greatness lies within me." And the last thing I will say, when you discover that greatness lies within you, act and live in humility. Because oftentimes when people find that there's greatness within them, they become peacocks. Like all of a sudden, I'm just so important. That's ego. When you find greatness within you, operate with a sense of true humility. Operate knowing that if it wasn't for someone who's greater than you, that you wouldn't be where you are. And love divinely, just as God has loved me, you, Angela, and everybody else that's watching. Don't be afraid to love. And by the way, there's something called Ho'oponopono. If you ever have time to research it, it's a ancient Hawaiian spiritual thing where it simply means forgiveness. forgiving oneself and forgiving others that have trespassed against you. If we're not able to do that, we're not able to grow and we're not able to get to our apex. So I think, I think that's my message tonight. I'm so thankful that I spent this time with you, Angela.
Thank you
I can
so
hear
much.
my son and my dog. The dog needs to go to the washroom to his cage. So he's at that point where he's gonna start barking. And my son goes to bed at 10 o'clock, and I could hear those little feet. He's like, "Mommy didn't realize it's 10 o'clock."
Okay, I am so you. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll come bring him. Sorry about that. Yeah, good night. Sorry, that's my son is that's my dog. So, yes, but thank you so much, for all the time that I spent here with everybody. I am so, so, so grateful. I'm so grateful for that time that I spent with you.
Thank you.
And you are such a source of inspiration.
Okay, thank you for coming and for sharing with us your story and your philosophy, and we will be on the lookout. Everyone, this is a woman to follow. If you're not following her already, you can look her up at My Nanny Circle. Trust me, definitely a woman to follow. Now,
thank you.
I'm let you go and be with your family while I make some last minute announcements. And thank you again for coming.
Thank you.
And those of you who are watching, please share the video with your friends. This is definitely some good advice to share with your friends, nanny families, and everyone. Thank you.
And
sorry. Where did she go? I'm sorry, Alene. Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can find you. I am so sorry. Let me see. I'm sorry, Alene. I didn't know you had something else to say. But for those of you who are still watching, next week we are going to have our special guest. It's going to be Sue Downing. She is going to tell us about the International Nanny Training Day, the same one Alene was just telling us about. Sue Downing was the one who came with Nanny Palooza, and she's the one who came up with the International Training Day, International Nanny Training Day. So be here next week. We're also going to have Mary. I hope I'm saying your last name, Alger. She's going to be here. I live here in Dallas, and she is over the Dallas area nannies, and she's going to tell us about the local International Nanny Training Day. So you all have a good night. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you again, Alene, for spreading your words of wisdom, for everything that you do for our nanny community, for standing up for us, for being a backbone in our nanny community, and for all the activity and all the how should I say, the coming together of the sisterhood. Thank you for everything you do for us. We love you and we appreciate you. And good night, all.